to a new episode of Chloe's Vortex. This is episode 4 with Remington Donovan, and we're going to talk about his new book. But I'm going to read your bio so
Okay.
everybody knows. So, Remington Donovan is the author of the #1 bestseller, Numerology, A Beginner's Guide to the Spiritual Meaning of Numbers. And I also read that book, which is excellent. And then the book we're talking about today, which is Prosperity Practices Harnessing the Power of Positive Thinking to Get the Life You Want. And they're both published by Hardie Grant, but we talked about it briefly earlier. It's going to be published in France. It's going to be, it's published in the US. It's going to be all over the world, I'm guessing, soon. So Remington was trained in the spiritual wisdom of the ancients. He was born into the traditions of mysticism, spirituality, meditation, which naturally evolved into his now over 30 years of experience practicing with tarot and numerology, along with performing thousands of readings. Remington teaches and speaks all over the world. He hosts the Mystical Artist podcast and leads the Mystical Art Mystery School on Patreon. Remington takes great joy in the gift of seeing life's highest potential through numerology and using that gift to guide and transform others. He lives in the enchanted tribes of Vermont with his wife Gina and his son Isaiah St. Ra. Um, Welcome.
Hey, welcome. Something's like on a weird delay. Hold on.
Oh, okay. I had that issue last time too. I don't know why.
Okay. Well, as long as on your end you're okay and everyone's that's listening. Um
Can you hear
it's
me fine though? Is it weird? Are you hearing the
yeah,
echo?
it's echo, but I can see you in real time, so hopefully it'll just clear up. Now it seems to clear up.
Okay. Okay.
Um yes, thank you.
So this is what
eh,
we're gonna talk about, but yes, exactly. First of all, I want to say that I love your two books because I love the fact that you make it super simple, even though these practices are really deep and rooted in like different, whether it's like spirituality, like different traditions. You make it really really simple and everybody and anybody can understand. So that's one thing I really like. So these practices, so this book comes in four sections or four parts, I should say: the attitude of gratitude, the power of the word, let go to grow, and the gift of giving. And then you have a smaller chapter on crystals and days of the week, which I really love too.
Yeah. Well, I wanted a woo woo section,
Yes.
So it was actually when I shared the ideas with my editor, who then is sort of like my spokesperson. She's like my A&R rep,
Uh-huh.
and she really works with the team, and she actually came up with I was sharing a lot of the practices, and she is the one who really came up with the great idea of these four parts. And then I wanted to add something a little esoteric, because that's also what I do and
I
love
love
and
it.
teach. Um and this really, this was like a definitely a book. There's a lot of love in this, and I just wanted to share some things that were very attainable, very easy if you weren't interested in, long getting up early and doing meditations for hours and going full, mystical on
Yeah.
everything. That these are just really nice things you could take and go as deep as you want, or you could just do some of these on the sort like a gratitude list, simplest thing. But I wanted to get into how these practices can work. And then as I was writing it, I started to share my experiences with it, not to
Yeah, because
talk
you're
about.
actually, your life is the perfect example on how you came from this point to the point where you are now. I mean,
Well,
how much.
Yeah, I was a little nervous at first, but like I've read books like this, and it always is like someone saying, "Okay, do this, do this. This will." And I wanted to say, here's the practice. Now I applied this. I have other stories that other people how with their experiences, but I wanted to show that these can be quite successful. And I didn't want to create something that was just like the fantasy of, oh, I'm going to like meditate and visualize, and then I'm going to open my mailbox and there's a check for
Yeah.
$1 billion, right? Like, and I feel like stuff that I've read, it goes a little in that sort of
I
fantasy
know. I
realm.
mean, there's a part of me, like I remember years ago, I did the advanced workshop of like Joe Dispenza, and
Oh
he was
yeah,
like doing the thing where it's like, okay, you can stay in 3D and figure things out. Okay, move to 5D and be there, and he took the example of buying a house. Okay, like in 3D, you figure things out, like you have to make so much money, you have to work so many hours, you got to do this, you got to or you could choose 5D and be there. And it seems so simple. And I'm like, well, if everybody could do that.
well, I there was like another similar concept, a really popular book that came out, which was it's all about visualization, and that's in here. That's like
Yeah.
an
Oh, yeah,
important part.
absolutely.
But
Yeah, you talk about this.
I had a joke. I'm like, if I just like visualize like everything that I'm thinking about happened, which is sort of true. Like, how many like this was years ago. I was like, boy, I'd have like a lot of sports cars and a lot of models as girlfriends, right? Like, um,
But it
but
has to be aligned with who you are too, like the true self, don't you think?
Oh, Chloe, that's really that really needs to be the book,
Yeah.
because and I feel like I tried to approach this in a humble way, and I could share where being literally flat broke and suicidally depressed to literally making $11 an hour, like living in Los Angeles. Now,
Yeah.
granted, as you know, that is not a lot of money at all, and not for LA. And but in abundance too, and this prosperity isn't just the money. That was a big part of my story, but I mean, these things were handed down. I started applying them, and my life really turned around. But then I know other people that have applied these practices, and there's just so many great stories.
Yeah.
One of the sections on power of the word about not complaining, which
Yeah,
my
exactly. Yeah.
like also for me probably the hardest practice in here.
Yes, for me too.
Seems
I'm as a French person,
Oh God,
we
I
love to
actually
complain about everything. I mean, you see what's going on in France right now. Every time, like we love to complain, and so
right, and then burn the city down. I used to work with a lot of French people years ago in this very, very fancy hotel restaurant, and I actually love them because they told me, they were like, "We're just up front." But you realize, I was like, "Oh, this is my personality." Like, nobody was offended. They just tell you your feeling if they were upset in that moment. And but this the no complaining. I literally know a woman whose goal was to become a millionaire at that point. This is a few years ago, and she feels like that was the practice. Like, did she did other things? That's the thing. You got to do the 3D. It's not like she sat around and didn't complain,
yeah,
and then a check showed up. But with her business efforts and real estate, she's in investments. And before long, but the thing is, she attributes that one little. That was the thing. That was the thing
yeah,
that made the biggest difference. And this is a book of all of these little things that could make a huge difference. And
absolutely.
for me, gratitude, and when I was really focused on the money part, it was like little things I have keeping track of my money. And it was about a
Mhm.
psychic practice, not an accounting practice. And I swear those little things are the things that put me in, and like the little nail hit the nail on the head that opened everything for me. And so I wasn't trying to, oh, here's my journey. I just know that things work. And if you're, you know, a lot of my friends in LA are, they're very successful at what they do and in creative things and things that I admire and love. Um, but I'd like to also share, hey, even if you're like feel even destitute, there's hope in this book. And if you're doing great on a lot of things, but want to go deeper, want to open more up, sort of my biggest prosperity too is I feel is calling the shots in my life,
Yeah.
like I work for myself. It's me and my wife Gina,
Yeah.
and we create and I do things that aren't like it's not a normal job, but I also have the time. I get to hang out with my son every day. And we just sort of take turns. And right now it works really well. And so that's why it's like money is one thing or attracting love, I mean, how many people do we know that are probably stunningly amazing and beautiful, but can't meet that right person?
Yeah.
These are practices that change that, and I know what it's like to be like, well, I'll always be alone, that
Yeah.
type of
But
thing. So
what you're saying too, like when you say that, actually, that you always be alone. In your book, you talk about that too. You're talking about like the power of the word, like your words become your reality, basically, because that's a big practice for all of us. I think. I mean, I'm guilty of that. Sometimes I put myself. My worst enemy, and it's being just aware of, yes, your attitude, your gratitude. You also talk about, loving your life as it is now, so then you can you can have the life you love later on. Like, that's all part of no complaining, talking good things about what you have, what who you are at that moment, and being present in that moment to be able to transform. That's, I mean, to me, that's a powerful reminder. And it requires a certain discipline. Like, you have to control your mind, your thoughts.
yeah, I think you know what, in a weird way, if it all comes down to like one practice, I feel like that attitude because I think I know so many of us are doing creative things, putting stuff out there, um, or it and there's a lot of fear for a lot of people around that, or just when I was just working jobs, like falling into that scarcity and then comparing myself to others,
That's the
whereas
other big one, the
that was
comparison.
like, oh, completely. But all of a sudden that shift when I just let go and said, you know what, I'm going to choose to love my life right now,
Yeah.
right? Even making $11 an hour.
Yeah.
And, thank God I had a friend who let me stay in there. Literally, I lived in a kitchen nook.
Yeah.
And I just made that switch all within the same time. And I'm telling you, that was the thing too that also like it attracts you're a different frequency and you attract something different when you just say, I
Yeah.
love everything I have, I love what I'm doing, even if it's a job that your ego hates,
Yeah.
right? um and this like weight just lifted off of me. All of my preconceived notions of how it should be, which was all judgment on myself, and all of my like creative ambitions, um, when I sort of let go and then
Mhm.
really just said, I love my life right here. Like honestly, when I made that switch, stuff just started like the destiny starts showing up, the
Yeah.
higher purpose, the opportunities. When I let go of my thinking with it, and um, so I'm able to still apply ambition. I have bigger
Mhm.
goals, and um, that was a big kicker. And I do a lot of one-on-one work and sessions, and so many people are searching like, oh, there's this destination of an activity or a job or a career that will be the thing that's their thing. And I feel like that all of that shows up appropriately. It's just loving the life you have. You'll have a
Yeah.
life you love, but you will the other things show up. That's the thing. I'm not delivering groceries in LA.
Yeah.
like all these odd jobs I did years ago,
Yeah.
just hustling and trying to figure it out. And LA is such a crazy place. Like I've written this huge movie, it's coming out, and I'm still delivering groceries. And I'm just like, because it takes forever to get paid on this stuff. But I was just like, what the hell? Like,
Yeah.
I felt like such a loser. Like, here I am, but then let's go see my movie I wrote.
Yeah. So that, well, that's I mean that's a big one to shift it, because then you shift also the way you radiate, or you what you're attracting in the world. I feel that is a powerful thing. And then another powerful thing is also being able. I know you talk about saying yes and no to things and stepping out of your comfort zone. Obviously everything is very detailed, very easy to follow those practices in your book, which I really love. But I mean, this is really, really powerful. Also, knowing your worth. Like, okay, you love your life. You don't criticize yourself. Don't criticize anything around you. Um, and also knowing what your worth is, because deep inside, it's such a inner struggle. I mean, for artists, for I mean, writers, anybody that's creative, and you putting your self out there or your work out there, is just about knowing how powerful that is, how valuable that is to others. That's another principle that really,
Yeah, we should put an artist program together.
yeah,
One of the
definitely,
things I have in the book too is like, instead of falling into that competition, is like, being around or watching people you admire. Like, you're a great example that I just, even just through social media, and yeah, we talk outside of social media, we're in touch with each other. Um, but you're a huge inspiration because I see you. I'm like, damn, she just seems fearless, and she's just, you're creating, you're putting it out there. You're like, wait, here's like music. Now here's like another art line and all this cool stuff. And in my impression is like, I see you and I say, wow, you really own it. You feel you're encouraging and you just do it. And I look at that and say, okay, I can share that. I can open up. And I think so many people just, whether it's they're afraid to ask themselves for a raise at their job because they've been doing a great job, or I think so many people would love to create more and share it with the world. And like you said, that is your gift and it is a service. It is
yeah,
art in particular. But I think art, it doesn't have to just be making, paintings or music or whatnot. It's, some people are accountants
anything.
and somehow
Yeah.
are artists.
Yeah, you can be creative with anything you do, and yes, but yeah, and I mean, and thank you for saying that about me, because my goal is really to inspire others to do. I have such a big thing about what we just talked about creating and not competing against each other. We're all unique in our own ways, so if we can inspire others to be more of themselves and authentic, and be a little more fearless. I mean, my journey was a very long journey too, and the universe kicked me in the butt a few times to kind of wake me up and put me back on my path. There's times where I'm really disciplined, where I do my meditation, and I write everything down, like my goals, or I have different practices like this. And I'm loving your book actually again, because it reminds me of certain practices that I had, let go of or forgotten. The gratitude being one, and then the not complaining being a huge one.
Oh, well, gratitude, it seems like you're just, and this is me, this is my, like, it's easy to sort of be dismissive or just writing the list, like, oh, that's so
Yeah,
cheesy. But then that's the thing that makes a huge difference. Like,
yeah,
when I fall into that scarcity of like, that my anxiety of like the future or planning, I've been dealing with it now just with organizing this retreat, and then someone can't make it, like all this stuff, and I get into a fear space. And now it's like, oh, okay, I need to just I need to let go. Sometimes you got to just trust there's something higher and do
Yes.
the work.
Yeah.
But gratitude, it really does, it changes that whole frequency. All of these little
I agree.
things kind of come down to it shifts your mindset, shifts your energy, shifts your vibe. I tried to write it where I wasn't too like, oh, anybody in LA knows, like the publishers, my editor, they're all in London, and they're super open minded. They're great, and it's a great team. But I also tried to write it for like, oh, here's somebody working in an office in London that never like thought of touching a crystal or being
Yeah.
grateful. So I kind of wanted that as well, but it's
But I think
interesting
you
too.
manage it really well.
I
Sorry,
wanted
I
to
think.
be
Hmm.
it's like nuts and bolts, but I also didn't want to be like flatlined where it's just like it feels like dull, you know.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's a perfect balance of everything that you say. It's like I love it, and I've known some of these practices, but I see how like really simple it can be for anybody in any field to kind of follow and work on those tools, um, and change their life with it.
Well, and also it's like a lot of this is like it's a practice is like on one page. Like I just open it up, assume everyone else is doing their best.
Yeah,
That was a hard one for me. Um
but that's a
and
great one too. Yeah.
and you see you can it's probably for the French. You can you can just open up and say, you know what, I'm gonna try this for today, right? Or I'm gonna try
Mhm.
this when I go into if you have like when you go into work or you're collaborating on a project, because another side of that too is not just about letting everything slide. Oh, they're doing their best. I can't do anything about it. Sometimes it's realizing, okay, if this is what the best is, maybe I need to work somewhere else, or maybe this
Yeah,
isn't the relationship or the even the creative partnership for me, and that's okay. And I'm not going to make it a personal battle. And sometimes, that's the other section of this is let go to grow. It's like sometimes we just have to clear stuff out, whether it's
true.
mental clutter and meditation's great for that, actual stuff, or, I think we've probably all like been with sort of a not great crowd, and I don't mean
Yeah,
like people that are even trying to harm you, but it's like hanging out to me like with a bunch of amateurs. Like when I wanted to like I got that first writing thing, I was like, "Oh, I need to stop. Like I need to only read scripts that are like by real pros."
yeah,
Right? I'm like intermingling with all these people in LA that are like I'm like, "No, I need to be around a higher energy field." Not
yeah.
like you're bad people, but I wanted to do something more pro,
You
you
know
know?
what that reminds me of? Like I recently, I didn't see the third episode, but I saw the Arnold Schwarzenegger little documentary on how, like, first it was like the bodybuilder and then the actor, and I know the third one is the politician. I haven't watched that yet, but when he turned into an actor, it reminds me of that because he said, I want to be a star. Like, I don't want to be this beginning actor background work. And his first work that they post is like is pretty terrible. It's not really that great, like the first role, because he has his own personality and is not showing emotions and all this. And then Terminator, and then everything explodes. uh,
Right.
um, but that's exactly what he said, and how fierce or brave it is to affirm that and to tell James Cameron, "I want to be a star. Like, I don't want to be some actor. I want to be a star." And I mean, it takes great courage. I think. I mean, who dares to say something like that? Um,
Yeah, I agree. Like, I really admire that type of ambition and greatness. And, sometimes, ultimately, too, it's like whatever your sort of greatness is, it's like, what's your soul's mission and purpose?
yeah,
That's what I believe. So, whatever that is, then you're really going to be fulfilled in life. But I often think, oh, I need to like. There's certain levels I want to up my game with
Yeah.
all of this, and I've created like this cool niche thing. I think you have too because you have
Yeah.
unique art. I mean, you're Chloe, like, and you just merge all of these different techniques and practices and skills. But yeah, that is inspiring. I think people like that. I think there's something to it, just about having some projection and
Yeah.
then doing the work. So that's the thing. Like you were talking about that class where all of a sudden you just bypassed everything and went to the 5D.
Yeah.
Where I
Yeah.
think if we this book is to say, let's do all of that
Yeah.
and let's see where you can go.
Yeah.
Because even like I know people like I'll do a session with somebody, I'm looking at all their numbers and charts and all of this, but they have no. I'm trying to give them maybe, oh, here's where you might have direction and natural talent, but they have no, and they don't want to apply themselves. Like I don't know what to tell you.
Mm,
Like you gotta also just you gotta do the work and you
yeah.
have to have vision. So it's like the work is the 3D, but holding that space in the 5D, if you will, this
Yeah.
is where things go a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Like you don't have a small life. I mean, you
Mhm.
can totally you live in LA, you can compare yourself, whatever. There's
Yeah.
other artists that have some, way
Yeah.
more fame or whatever. And you know, I think letting go of all. I'm not saying you do that, but I'm saying it's easy to like. I'll compare myself to some other who are the big mystics or something like that, and
Yeah.
that just gets you nowhere. And people pick
Yeah.
up on that energy. It
Yeah.
feels sort of weak.
Yeah, I think, and then you get stuck in that energy, and then you can't get out of it. It's almost like, yeah, it really gets you stuck. It doesn't hurt the others, but
Exactly.
you just put yourself in your own little cage almost.
I feel
And
like Los
yeah,
Angeles is the best place to use that practice. I mean, I've had clients that are like, very famous actors and some of the biggest stuff of all time.
yeah,
They're like living it and doing it and very talented, but they're like totally insecure. And then they're like, well, I haven't won
yeah,
a Grammy. I'm like, yeah, but like put that in your projection then that
yeah,
you're going to do that and you will attract that.
absolutely.
But they still caught up and with all their success, they're caught up in that vanity of comparing and they felt like a loser and a failure.
Well, I think so, because that's a big issue we have, like with drugs and all that stuff, because people can't live with themselves when they have like huge success, but they didn't do the inner work, and their nervous system is almost not prepared for this thing. I don't know. I believe everything has to come together, so you're whole. Not just one thing and the rest is, it's like, I work out, I do yoga, I do my thing, so I can be, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically prepared for everything.
Yeah, it's full like warrior stuff, and I think you really hit the nail on the head with your nervous system. Like you have
Yeah.
to hold it.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely know how I've personally sabotaged, but like we both seen people too, like where we've seen people really on the rise with whatever their field is, whatever their love is, and not have the nervous system not hold it, and then it
Yeah.
just sort of implodes. Like I've seen some bad stories, and drugs will definitely take you down
Yeah. I mean,
faster.
drugs, depression, all kinds of stuff. We've seen it around with like where people were like, how come? How could they be unhappy? How could they be depressed with all that success? Well, it's not just the success, it's everything that's underneath it. That's
Yeah, and I think it's like all of that, whether it's meditation, it's just incorporated. And that's why, like this book, I just wanted to give a lot of little pieces of a bigger puzzle. And some of these are gonna like really hit home more for certain people than others. You know, these are like some for me definitely hit home. Some are more challenging. Some, you know, made a little difference for me, but made a huge difference for somebody else. So I think it's like you may never know. And it's interesting too, and like being in this world more, teaching about this. I just think because I see a lot of stuff, it's all manifesting, manifesting, manifesting.
yeah.
But then there are times it's this interesting balance and this ebb and flow of when to like sort of be passive and receive,
Hmm.
when to take all the action. One of the practices in here to do something different every day, ideally for 40 days. It's like so you know when opportunity shows up how to go for it as
Yes.
well. I have definitely had opportunity knock at the door that I don't know, I just let it sail because
Yeah.
I didn't think I was ready. I was insecure,
Yeah.
you
I
know.
mean, I think we all have examples of things. Like I regret certain things I didn't feel I was ready for, and I'm just, choosing to let go. Things, perfect timing. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
letting go, that's as a Scorpio, we're both
yeah.
Scorpios. Gina, my wife, has a joke. She calls it the Scorpio bag, where
Yeah.
it's like I just catalog
Like,
everything, and then 6 years later, I'm like, you know, that time on Tuesday, August 15th, like we're like vicious prosecutors or something. And
totally.
I mean, but I think that's a funny way, but it's like, oh, it's a Scorpio definitely. If there's a sign that wants to hold on to shit or resentment, I think it's us. I'm
Yeah.
not so much that person, but I will remember all
Yeah.
of the little details where I feel like I was wronged.
Well, I'm married to a Scorpio too, so it's
Yes.
kind of like, it's interesting.
Yeah. Like
It
a
works.
big energy, although a fucking epic, awesome aura. I mean, I
Yeah.
just like watch his stuff too, and it's like he's definitely someone that just brings joy, even if like just look, it's that energy field for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Scorpio amplifies and magnifies. So if we're being like petty and bad, it's worse. But I think it's such a great sign when you own it in.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I think we're good Scorpios and your husband.
Yeah. I think we're good.
Um, but yeah, like I just like I'm hoping too that there are people that were also in like where I was at to some degree and start using something like this and really turn things around. And I've already been getting stories. Like
That's
people
great.
two people that helped me just clean, just friends of mine, both looking for the next tier in their career and a job financially. They helped me clean up my original manuscript. Nothing major, but it's nice to have some friends that I trust. And I swear to God, they both, after going through the book, they didn't even like do the practices at that point, but it like went into their psyche, into their
Yeah.
mind, and into their energy. They both landed they each just landed the biggest jobs of their life.
That's amazing.
Like life-changing, you know, financially life-changing positions.
That's amazing.
Like at a very high level.
Yeah.
And that I was like, I want to take the credit. I'm like, see, it's like these, it's
Well,
the
that's your
energy I need.
gift. That's your gift, actually, and hopefully more and more will get the book and apply these practices because it can be life changing. I mean, like you said, even if you just choose one for 40 days or more and just start applying that one, it can change so much. I've lived
Um,
it, I've experienced it, and it's really truly powerful.
and I think too, you can just use it, just open up to a practice and
I
try
love
it.
that.
Like I just
I do that too. I'm like,
I opened
okay,
up
what?
to media cleanse,
Oh yeah.
which I probably won't do, but it's like just put the news down. Put I mean, I use social media for a lot of
Yeah.
work and promotion, but the over consuming of it. What's funny though is at the time that I wrote the book, I had a little line. I'm like, do you like does Kanye West? Do you really care? Does he have any bearing on your life? Like, no. And then all of as they were editing it, that's when all that controversy started happening
Oh,
around Kanye West, and they're like, he's a Nazi or whatever, all that craziness, and they actually changed it. That was like one of the edits that they put in. What was it? Who's that British? The like Harry Styles. They put in just
yeah.
a British pop star,
Oh,
but I
yeah.
thought it was funny. I know why they changed Kanye West, but at the time that I wrote the manuscript, Kanye West is always making the media, but I'm like, he has no like you're unless you're like immediately working with him or something or getting paid or whatever from him, like it doesn't really have any bearing. It's just
Yeah.
interesting with media how we and I do it get so worked up on things
Absolutely.
that you have no say in, like
Yeah.
can't control. Like I could watch protests in France right now,
Yeah.
right? And I'm just like, my thought is, well, I do have friends that live in Paris. I hope their neighborhood's okay. But like, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna go over there and be like, fuck the system,
Yeah.
like, fuck France, like, or
Well, but
whatever.
that's the thing too. That's a big thing in your prosperity practice. Like that's how the people get stuck in their scarcity mindset, and just like, okay, we're gonna protest to ask for a raise, or we're gonna protest to get these 2 extra years before we can retire, like whatever it is. I mean, I've lived there, and was born there, and I've seen those protests from since I was born, and I'm not sure if everybody would change and apply these principles.
Well, yeah, I
There's
had
no need to
joked.
complain. Stop complaining. Start working on yourself. Start loving the life you live right now, and so
Totally. And is there oppression? There's a lot of corruption. I mean,
yes, of
we've seen
course.
it. I think you know where I stand. I like to podcast. I like to talk shit, right? I'm
Yeah,
a Scorpio.
I love your
I
podcast. By the way, I want to
thank
mention
you.
it. If you
When you
go,
messaged me, like whatever, right when I was like, wait, I was so thrilled that you listened, and then we started to connect more because your Instagram popped up just like in my feed of like, oh, this might be, and it was your hair. I was like, oh my god, this woman's hair. I thought I had like big hair. It's a little shorter now than it was then. And then I did a lot of stuff with Guru Jugget, who had massive hair. And then you
yeah.
show up and just trump everybody. And I'm like, damn, this is the best hair of all time. So I started following because of that, because you just seemed cool. And then I was like, wait, oh, you're an artist. But it was like also just the energy field. But yeah, it's like it's just I like the outlet. I like to joke about stuff and podcasts, but I'm trying to turn my anger into like a funny sort of
Well,
creative outlet. And I'm not really
what I can
angry.
say is about the similar thing I said to the book. You joke on the podcast. You joke about things that are going on in the world, or you talk about things in a certain way, and then all of a sudden you just shift it with a comment that like comes from a deeper knowledge of what whether like mystery schools and numerology, and then you kind of all of a sudden like you're going to be talking about, oh, this goddess energy and that person, or whatever it is, which that's why I also love that podcast, because it's like you taking things that are current or media based or whatever it is, and you change, like you just like comment, like it's just like, oh, he just threw that one in, and it's like, okay, you know it,
Well, because I'm analyzing a lot of
yes,
it through numerology and astrology and through deeper
astrology,
teachings.
or you talk about Jupiter last time on the last
Oh, yeah,
podcast,
the
and then
potlucks.
I love this, or we were talking about the lizard man on the plane, that lady,
Right.
and
I
that's
mean,
also coming from social media. And I thought about the same thing. I thought, I don't know if I would see that guy. I might have not gotten off the plane, but I'd be like, so curious to see what that.
Right, and I'm in the world, like, I'm open, like, I'm so open my like, there could actually be shape-shifting lizard people, I mean, why are we
Yeah,
so closed off? I think it's good to, like, I go full mystical, if you
I
will,
love it. Yeah,
and then but then I wanted, like, I also just like, oh yeah, sometimes you just have to do the work that's in front of you, you know?
yeah,
It took me a while, like, I feel like I'm personally such a late bloomer. I mean,
yeah,
I'm one of those people. I moved to LA with and I moved later in life. I was, like, just about 40 almost, trying to be like, "Oh, I have a television show. I'm gonna learn how to be a TV writer." It's not like I had any training or anything. Um, and then, for me, my part, drugs were a big part of my story for a
yeah,
while. And then LA is like when you're new, it's just big and vast, and drugs are
yeah,
available if you want that. And like, um, I used to be like down on myself for my age and all of that, but like, I don't know. It's just like I couldn't be happier in the sense that I'm doing everything that I love the most.
yes,
And I have some bigger goals and whatnot. Like it's good. Sometimes I look now. I'm like, okay, cool. I got an amazing, beautiful wife, a great son. We have a house. Like I didn't. I was living in a kitchen. Just buying a house would
yeah,
be me when I got a bedroom with a door that I could close years ago. I was like, all right, I was living large. Like,
yes,
compare when I got a car as opposed to a bike and taking the bus, I was like, it's like sometimes I was so grateful for those, what now I look back are such small transitions. I couldn't imagine just trying to rent a room,
yeah,
it's like in LA trying to figure it out and like, can I write something? So I don't know. It's like a journey. I definitely can see where I've sabotaged and could have put more effort and energy into something, which is what I'm feeling now. So I need to
mhm,
put more energy and effort into some of my sort of bigger goals
yeah. Which,
that, you
so
know.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, totally. I mean, it's constantly we're constantly growing.
I'm
So,
trying to be famous in France now. This
well,
book.
that's there. There's the thing. You got to start learning the language, maybe, and
I
start
know I better.
complaining a little more.
Yeah, totally. This is I should write how to complain in French is actually a prosperity technique. It'll open things up. I was joking though about the protesters. I should go give them my book now that it's going to be in France. But I literally can't keep up with the protesting
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Well, we're approaching the end of this amazing interview. Anything that you want to add? Anything that's coming up? Any other book that you're planning to write?
there.
Any?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, so I'm waiting.
Anything that's new?
So I'm waiting for my main editor to come back. She just had a kid. She comes back soon. I have things I'm pitching to her, but I am starting to work on a book on tarot,
Nice.
and probably a deck. I want to do something with numbers,
Yes.
and I actually would like to turn this inspired into something that you just pick a card and that's
Yes.
your sort of practice for the day, something to be mindful of, trying to like keep it really inspirational and kind of easy too,
Yeah.
and that's what it was. This book came to me in meditation, where it was like create something really accessible and easy that where whatever it is somebody's accessing a little bit better their infinite self. And I
Yeah.
think that's where it all really comes from. And so yeah, it's I haven't signed the contract. They had said yes to it before, but then when I shared this idea for this book, they wanted to make that first. So fortunately, I have a good team. You know, I definitely learned that everybody working on it is trying to make the best book possible. I mean, I wrote it, but they're great at just turning it into a book. The
Yeah.
design, cutting out my bad grammar, or helping me get be better at it. I'm excited for France. So, and I gotta get better at the language. I know culinary terms at least.
Well, that's a start.
Yes,
You can go
especially
to
for
eat
French.
somewhere and just order your food.
Totally. But I adore you. I mean, I can't wait that we all hang out in person to meet Gina
Yes.
and Isaiah. Um, I know like we're in touch, but that would just be great. So that's on my vision board.
All right. Yes. Me too. I'd love to meet you all, and we will. I know we will.
Yes.
We will for sure. Well,
Well,
thank
thank
you
you.
so much. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for holding this space. And it's always amazing connecting with you.
Well, it's amazing connecting with you. This is the amazing book again, Prosperity Practices by Remington Donovan. Available pretty much everywhere online. You
Yeah,
can find it.
I mean Amazon, but all major booksellers have it. If your local bookstore doesn't, they can order it, no problem.
Perfect, and then very soon in French as well.
Yes.
So that's exciting. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Chloe.
And
Have a great
until
rest of your
next
day.
time, thank
Adore.
you.
Love
Bye. I don't even know what she's. Oh, yes, there.